Hello.
Hey. Hi. Okay.
You're back.
Yes, I'm back. So when we were talking before, let's see. Okay. So Virginia, and she had lost her leg.
Yes.
And had it amputated, and then she got a prosthetic, like a really heavy, uncomfortable prosthetic.
Uncomfortable. It was very uncomfortable.
And then France fell in the war. It did.
And the Nazis were like, be here or get out.
Right. And she was like, let me at 'em. And so she's
quite feisty, this one. Yes. Yes. She loved France.
Yeah.
And
then she talked to a dude.
Stranger danger. She did talk to a dude. That dude gave her a number.
A number of a friend.
A number of a friend. This friend was in London. This friend was actually a leader of what became known as the F section and the S1E agents, which had recently been approved by Winston Churchill, leader of Great Britain during World War II, that they knew was going to be like fighting a new kind of war. They were establishing what would become modern day espionage.
Oh, okay.
They were trying to get people into France. They needed information and they had no way to get it. And they wanted, the reason it was a new war is because they weren't just spies. They wanted these people to go in and establish, they wanted to train guerrilla warfare. They wanted to teach people how to select military targets. They wanted them to be trained and ready to go so that when Germany was ready, not Germany, wrong guys, when Great Britain was ready to land and fight against Germany, that there would be people in place in the occupied countries that were ready to take up arms as well. That was going to be the expectation of these SOE agents.
Smart. Okay.
Lots and lots of things happen. She's sent to this man in London by George, all this stuff. They're like, what? We don't want a woman. We don't want an American. We don't know all this stuff. It's very important to note in her files, in the SOE agent files that they have found since then, never once mention that she has a prosthetic leg. There are questionnaires in this thing, and she doesn't lie about it. She doesn't like tell them no. There's questions on this questionnaire where it says like, can you ride a horse? Can you scale a mountain? Can you row a boat? Can you all this stuff? And she said, yes, yes, yes. And to the question, can you run? She does say no. And nobody asks for any explanation. None of these people know that this woman has a wooden leg. Okay? Mind-boggling. Okay. So she goes through this training. Some people go to bat for her. She goes through this agent training, all of this stuff. People are parachuting into France. Nobody can establish a network, basically, right? So they're like, well, we have this American woman who speaks 6 languages, does all of this stuff, is well versed. Can we send her in as an American journalist? She's a woman. She's American. So she's not seen as a fighter. She's from a neutral, quote unquote, country. Can we send her in? This isn't entirely necessary to the story. I could just gloss over and tell you how she eventually ends up in France. But I think it's super interesting that the State Department, so the department that has continuously rejected any of her applications to try to move her career forward, to become a diplomat, to do anything besides being a clerk, they refused it repeatedly. And now the State Department comes back and is refusing to approve her visas to go in as an American journalist. They don't even know that they're like denying her to go set up a spy network in France. They're just like, nah. Like even because she went in under the British. She went in under the SOE, the F section agents. She didn't even go in as an American spy. She went in as an American who was working as a British spy. But the State Department was continually denying her visas to go into France. I think it probably had something to do with the fact that America was maintaining its like neutrality, but also I think they were just like, Virginia, just go back to your closet for the 18th time. Anyway, September 4th, 1941, she officially arrives on a boat posing as an American journalist in Vichy, France, which was the center of Germany's puppet government in France. Everything that I found about this, I hate that everybody's like, she was the first female to set up. No, she was the first effective spy network in France in World War II. It doesn't matter that she was a woman. Because men had landed first. None of them established the spy network that they needed. Okay, so sit down.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
She wasn't just the first woman. She was the first spy of any country to get into France and to establish a working network of intelligence. Okay. I could talk for literally 8 hours about all the individual missions that this woman has set up, but I'm just going to gloss over the BA highlights of this. Okay.
Okay.
Also, September 4th, 1941, she was infuriated the whole time that America was not doing anything because that was her first country. She always called France her second country, right? Do you know how long after she got into France that America joined the war?
You said September 1941?
September 4th, 1941.
Sure.
Yes.
I do know. Yep.
Yep. So, within 4 months of her landing and establishing, in all mind-blowingness, in those 4 months, she established an amazing network and didn't need America's help to do it. But, but she established it. Okay, so in her time here, there was a leak in one of the networks. She fought to be the leader in Vichy France. A lot of people, advocated for her and they gave it to a man instead. And then that man got his entire network arrested in one go because he was an idiot. She helped so many people out. Anytime, she was always the first one to hear if anybody's cover was blown, and she would get them out immediately without question. She was a safe house. She established safe houses. She saved all these people's lives. At the time, they used radios to try to get information back to Great Britain at that time, was who she was still working with. So it was difficult because people from Great Britain had to parachute in. That was the other reason they were so excited that she was an American, because the Germans would allow her to come in on a boat. But every other country had to send their spies in by parachute because they weren't letting them cross borders. They legitimately had to sneak in, and she was able to just be like, I'm an American, I'm a journalist. But they were having a hard time establishing radio operators in France as well, because they had to drop in with their equipment. That equipment was illegal under the German rules. So if you were found with it, every time they transmitted, it was a horrible, horrible risk, because the Germans had trucks that would just drive around neighborhoods and they could detect those radio signals within a half-mile radius, something like that. And then they would find you and immediately do what the Germans did in World War II. She was able to establish her network, but they didn't always have anybody with a radio to be able to tell Great Britain what was going on. So her most recent radio operator was killed, or found at the very least, and taken to a camp. But the radio was not. He knew that they were coming for him, and he had buried the radio on the beach. And Virginia knew that this was protocol. So she went down to the beach, dug it up, taught herself how to use the radio, so that she would have a continuous, reliable way to get back in touch with Great Britain, because every single radio operator that they sent was captured immediately. And Virginia's like, you know what? I'm just going to do this myself. Okay.
You want something done right.
Just give me the radio and we'll call it a day. Okay. She built her network. She had guerrilla spies ready to go. They blew up bridges that interrupted the German supply trains. All of this stuff. There was the whole nodule of their spy network that the other guy that was put in charge, got captured. She found a way to get them transferred to another prison that was easier to break out of, coordinated that breakout, and freed 10 of the spies and put them back to work in France. And I cannot believe that I've never heard of this woman. And she did atrocious. All of this with a wooden leg. A wooden leg. They found out who she was. The Germans knew who she was. There were wanted posters everywhere. It was 2 or 3 years in, and she had to escape. She climbed over a mountain to do it.
And then,
within 6 months, was like, what are we doing? Send me back. So they brought in Hollywood special effects teams to give her stage makeup, to change her face. And she went back. And she was there. And she was there until the Germans were defeated. And I wish I could tell you every single little story that she ever did, but I would just be blue in the face and I would never finish my laundry today. But she just, and how have I never heard of this? I love history. I pay attention when history teachers talk most of the time. And I've never heard of this woman. And she's like a real life James Bond. Like, and she was
fighting the sexism too.
I just, wow. And she wasn't just the first woman. She established in France the first successful, and if you, they would debrief spies, because most spies would only be there for 6 months, something like that. And again, she was there for 3 years. And they would interview these people that would come back, and every single time they'd be like, oh, it was Diane that got me out, or, oh, there was one main book that I read on this subject, and it took them 3 years of research to connect every alias name that she had back to her.
Amazing.
Because they'd be like, oh, it was Diane that got me out, or it was the woman that got me out, or it was the flower that got me out. It took them 50 years to realize that it was all her.
That's amazing.
So she established it. She kept them alive. She helped them escape. She had people in place so that when the Allied countries marched on Germany, people were blowing up bridges for them before they got there.
Yeah. And it sounds to me too like a big part of why she was successful is that she had the trust of the people underneath her as well. They knew that if it came to it, she was going to get them out safely.
Right. Right.
Because that's what she did. That's amazing to me. Because I guarantee nobody else was doing that consistently.
Right.
That's not.
And there was one that she helped escape. So it was very early on. It was in the first year that she was there. And it was she had established, and maybe a month after her, somebody else was finally able to start setting up, a network as well. And eventually they just realized that there was some overlap and there was somebody else on the other side of the city and all this stuff. And the higher ups are work together, but somebody needs to be in charge. Right. That's just how the military works. There's got to be somebody that has the final decision. And every single person in the field asked for Virginia to be given the final word. And they gave it to the other guy. And that was,
of course,
that was when they were captured. That was when his spoke of the spy wheel, because they got sloppy on their protocols for code words and all of that. But
this makes so much sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
One thing that doesn't make sense to me, and it doesn't matter at all, but I'm just when you at the beginning, when you were talking about the languages that she learned, I was just all of them were making sense until you said Russian, and I was I don't know why and how, cause all of the rest of them are Romance languages. And then Russian is it's over there and it's Cyrillic and it's just a bunch of.
Okay. I had a split second where I was you don't understand why it was important in World War II, but no, I see what you're saying. How she acquired it, why
learning it. Yeah. And how. Yeah.
I think she was just in Paris and enjoying life. And she was well, I got these other, 5 down. I guess that's
right.
Maybe she knew
something entirely different. Let's go.
Maybe she knew somebody who knew Russian in Paris back in the day, and it was just teach me some things.
Yeah.
And even as I'm reading this whole book, and then so I read one book, and then I went back and found all these other things, but it is your duty to survive.
Yeah.
That vision that she had of her dad after she lost her leg, because the one book is amazing and tells every little thing. And it doesn't say that because obviously nobody can assume what she was thinking in those moments. But I know that at least once in France in the war, she was it's my duty to survive. And she does. She survives the war, and this was equally as impressive, but again, I'd be talking for 10 hours, but she ended up in the CIA in her later years. And I just think this is funny. It just made me giggle because she fought it for so hard for so long, but she actually does get married, to a man named Paul, and they're just cute. and met him in the war, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
But he's, so it's one of those things where she was, she worked her way up in the CIA. She actually was very influential in the CIA and the development of the CIA. But it was one of those things where he's Mr. Virginia.
Yeah.
And he was totally okay with it. And it was super adorable. But that's not relevant to
we love that.
The awesome shenanigans of, so the book is literally called A Woman of No Importance. And it talks a lot about how, like, people don't even know how ready she had France for when the Allies landed. Like,
right.
D-Day is an impressive undertaking. There are so many aspects of World War II and all these battles and everything that were obviously influential. But for one single person to have all of this stuff ready to go when the armies show up.
Like high up in the ladder at all. Like,
and that was one of the things when they were talking about why are we sending her? Like, we have these men who are spies. We have this British citizens who are spies. We have all of this. And it was actually, there was some grumbling from the men about this is not an honorable way to fight a war. The idea of not, and that's the thing, because they were with a spy network, but it was like, I want to be a spy. I want to gather information, or I want to go in as a soldier. Like a lot of the men that were trying to be recruited for this was, I'm not going to gather information and train guerrilla warfare soldiers. Like, they didn't like the joint aspects of the mission that they were trying to give them. And Virginia was like, that's France. I love that place. I love those people. And I'm tired of watching this tyranny. I'm tired of my own country not doing anything. I'm tired of, like, she was just like, let's go. Like,
wow.
It's just amazing. And I'm so upset that it took me this long to ever hear that woman's name.
Yeah. Let's say it again.
Virginia Hall.
Virginia Hall. And Paul Hall. Later on. Sorry, it's obvious.
Bring it home. Bring it home.
That's, quick question also. Sorry. Didn't want to interrupt earlier. The radio burial. Was that protocol? Like, was that a protocol that she set in place? How did she know where to find it? Stuff like that.
I don't know if it was always protocol, but it was protocol for that. She was actually well acquainted with that particular radio operator. And she actually really liked him. I know she kind of, I set it up like she kind of rolled her eyes at all radio operators, but he was actually, so most true spies, most of like Virginia, the SOE agents, they were there for about 6 months. Most radio operators came into the country knowing they usually got a month before they either had to flee or they were captured.
Right.
And I think that particular one, he had been there for like 3 months, something like that. So she actually really liked him. He was really good at his job, which is why she trusted enough that the radio would be where he said it would be if he knew that he was about to be captured.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it was always what they were supposed to dispose of it somehow. I mean, obviously, I'm sure not every radio operator had a beach around, but that was their protocol. Okay. That particular radio operator and Virginia was well aware that that's what he would do if he was able to. If he had the time, if he knew that they were closing in and he had the time, that he would take it to the beach and bury it in this spot.
So she didn't know it would be there, but she hoped it would, like when she went to it.
She had reason to believe that it would be there.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And Virginia, he was actually, I say she taught her. Yeah, I said she taught herself a lot of it, but I think it was actually that radio operator that taught her the basics enough for her to be able to like fire it up and figure the rest out herself. I think that was the same radio operator.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. This woman.
10 out of 10, this woman.
I'm a little bit in love with her.
Yeah.
She's really pretty too.
My gosh.
I mentioned that as an afterthought because it didn't matter, but she was like she could have just gotten married, cream of the crop, good old small town America, well-to-do family. She could have just gotten
lots
married.
Of babies, just
lived
her life the way.
Yeah, she's like, excuse me.
The way
I got some things to do. Yes. Poor Barbara. She did make it home and was with Barbara for some time and was like, sorry that you didn't know where I was for the last 5 years, but like had to fight the good fight. And just mind-boggling. If you ever want to read a good book, I know you're not opposed to nonfiction, but you don't seek it out. But if you seek any of them out, A Woman of No Importance.
A Woman of No Importance. I feel like I've heard that title before. Maybe it was from you. I don't know.
It's entirely
possible. I don't know. Very cool. Very cool. So wild.
And that's several things that you know now.
Oh my gosh, so much. Dude. amazing. I'm gonna have to look her up, see what she looks like.
Please.
Not that it matters,
Please.
but now that you said she's pretty, I'm like,
yeah.
How?
And that they brought in like Hollywood special effects people to change her face when she wanted to go back.
Like, that's another thing. Like, obviously, like, she would have had to, like, to keep that look up, they would have had to teach her how to keep that up. And, like, remake the latex or whatever they were using at that time. Like, that's so crazy. The number
I just picture,
my God.
I picture that scene from Sherlock Holmes where when he's, like, walking down the road and he, like, you know, runs his finger down, like, a dusty window and puts it on his face and then he, like, grabs a shawl. Like how he just, like, changed, like, that's those scenes in Sherlock where he changes his appearance in, like, 10 seconds. I'm sure that she did that. I have no proof of that, but I'm sure that she did that.
Amazing.
Okay, but now I'm gonna stop talking and go do my laundry because.
Oh yeah, good. We need clothes.
I do supposedly
running around unclothed. It's not
unclothed. Okay, bye.
Although in this heat, you know.
Okay, bye.